Lani, februarja, spoštovane dame in gospodje, smo za las še speljali prve dogodke lanske fabule. Letos se je prvi del fabule, ki je bil na spletu izjemno dobro obiskan, iz tega hibridnega prostora seli spet k sreči med žive, to je po zaslugi novega tudi umetniškega vodstva. Mislim, da eden prvih mednarodnih sploh dogodkov v postpandemičnem času, če temu lahko rečemo, kljub temu, da pandemija še vedno traja. Vmes se je zgodilo marsikaj, ne bom obnavljal tega, ker je vsem precej znano. Zgodilo se je tudi to, da je vrednost, mislim, da literaturi, knjigam absolutno narasla, da smo se kot družba absolutno polarizirali in mogoče še nikoli nisem res s tako osebno, rekel, prizadetostjo čutil, da kar rabimo dejansko so zgodbe, ki ne razdvajajo, ampak nas zbližujejo in predvsem knjige, o katerih se lahko skupaj pogovarjamo, ne glede na to, kako jih kdo od nas bere. Zelo bi se na tem mestu rad zahvalil vsem, ki omogočajo festival Fabula, Cankarjevemu domu, Javni agenciji za knjigo, Mestni občini Ljubljana, obema medijskima sponzorjema, Delu in MMC-ju. Rad bi se zahvalil izjemni mladi ekipi, ki je letos vpeljala, kljub temu, da so okoliščine res izjemne, vrsto nekih novih dogodkov, vrsto dogajanja, ki ga doslej znotraj Fabule ni bilo in na katerem bomo v prihodnjih letih skupaj gradili. Vabim vas vse, da si ogledate dosedanje izjemne, mislim, da pogovore na spletu, tako v produkcijskem smislu izjemne, kot seveda tudi v vsebinskem smislu izjemne z našimi gosti, in da sledite še preostalemu dogajanju Fabule, ki bo delno, predvsem humanističen del, preseljen na zgodnji september in v nekem upanju, da še z Enis Maci, z nemško dramatičarko in številnimi drugimi dogodki nek način speljemo, kolikor se le da, ta živi neposredni stik, po katerem mislim, da vsi hlepimo tudi zdaj. Zelo prisrčno pozdravljam našega nocojšnjega gosta, češkega pisatelja Mareka Šindelka, katerega roman Utrujenost materiála je šel ravno v zbirki fabulinih knjig, ki si jih lahko ogledate zunaj. Roman se začne s pretresljivim prizorom bega. Se mi zdi, da vsi, ki smo bili toliko časa na enem mestu, si želimo nekih pobegov, ampak konstruktivnih pobegov mogoče v neko imaginacijo in svetove, ki so nas mogoče bolj razdvajali kot zbliževali, zdaj pa upam, da prihaja nek drug čas. Pozdravljam tudi gospoda Berganta, ki bo nocojšnji pogovor vodil. Hvala lepa, da ste prišli in uživajte.
Dober večer. Bom probal biti čim krajši, ker nekako smo Fabulo, kot je že Aleš povedal, otvorili uradno 8. maja, virtualno. Letošnja Fabula se sprašuje, kaj pomeni prihodnost, kaj pomeni privilegij. Privilegij je danes sedeti v Cankarjevem domu in spremljati kulturni dogodek. In konec koncev je privilegij na našem festivalu v Cankarjevem domu gostiti tako veliko literarno ime, kot je Marek Šindelka. Da ne bom preveč časa vzel samemu dogodku, bi se na tem mestu rad samo zahvalil nekaj ljudem. V prvi vrsti Manci Garenko, ki je moja predhodnica in je vodila festival do tega trenutka za njeno izjemno delo. Svoji ožji ekipi, Katji Šivkovič, programski koordinatorki festivala in producentki festivala Mihaeli Trupi in vsem ostalim sodelavcem. Seveda tudi hvala Cankarjevem domu za tesno sodelovanje in vsem ostalim partnerjem. Tako, zdaj pa na oder vabim Marka Šindelko in voditelja današnjega večera Igorja E. Berganta. Hvala.
Najprej dober večer našemu nocojšnjemu gostu, dober večer Marek, dobrodošli v Sloveniji in seveda vsem živim ljudem tukaj v dvorani Linhartovi. Zakaj Linhartova? Mislim, da to ni povsem naključje, ampak več o tem ob koncu. Seveda pa tudi vsem, ki nas spremljate po spletu. Now I will switch to our working language, which is English. We'll soon hear one passage of your book performed by a very young and well-known actor, but let me start because I'm a journalist and I come from sport journalism, and they say, all sport journalists are always asking the same questions which are completely worn out. The first one is, I'll try to satisfy you with that. So how are you feeling tonight here in Slovenia?
Thank you. I'm wonderful.
Okay.
The weather is nice.
Yes, you brought good weather with you from Prague. And of course, the second question is because we're in Slovenia. What is actually your relationship with Slovenia? Because you're starting now, hopefully, a long-lasting relationship with Slovenian readers. Because your last book is the first one translated into Slovenian. But have you other, let's say, relations to Slovenia?
Well, I do. I was here probably 10 years ago, and I visited Triglav with my ex-girlfriend back then, and we climbed the mountain in sneakers, and it was
that's very Czech.
Yeah, very Czech. Yeah, maybe I had those sandals with socks, white socks in them.
That's also true. Yeah. But it was invented actually by the Germans. I mean, but so you were up there, Mount Triglav.
Yeah. We managed to get there, and it was, I would say, love for first sight. So I mean, to Slovenia as a whole, and
you actually are a honorary Slovenian since 10 years. So I mean, the one who
that's
climbs,
true. Like it's for Slovenian, it's obligation, like to
actually it's not
to climb.
I haven't
I heard something like that. Okay.
But I'm not 100% Slovenian, so I might be excused. But so you were up there, Mount Triglav, so you know Slovenia. You are a sort of adopted Slovenian. We will soon start to talk about your book, which is really great. I would say somehow disturbing, but in a very noble way. And we will hear now a passage from Material Fatigue, which is the English title of the book, which is actually still not translated into English, but it is into Slovenian. So we'll now hear Benjamin Krnetic, an actor of the biggest Slovenian theater, the National Theater Drama from Ljubljana. So let's rock and roll, Benny.
Dober večer. V sneg je padel nahrbtnik in za njim fant. Večer, na obzorju si, surov kos neba, izrezan v sivini. Vidi se sapa, kovinska ograja se iskri od mraza. Iskri se tudi betonski zid, za zidom vrsta stekel, šipe svetlobe. Svetloba bloka. Fant hitro vstane, s kolen strese sneg. Čez kolut bodeče žice visi odeja z inventarno številko. Vse tukaj ima svojo številko, ga preblisne. Razgleda se, si oprta nahrbtnik. V nahrbtniku ima kapucar, milo, vžigalice, nož, ki ga je ukradel v jedilnici. V žepu skrbno zložen kos papirja, na njem ime mesta nekje na severu. Mora na sever. Tam nekje je brat. Najprej od vsega pa mora nekje stakniti telefon ali vsaj zemljevid. Ne, čisto najprej mora potegniti odejo z ograje, sicer ga bojo našli. Tudi zaradi mraza še nikoli ni doživel tako hudega. Potrebuje odejo, da ne bo zmrznil. Z ograje vleče odejo, toda osti ograje se samo vedno globlje zadirajo v vlakna. Vse je zaman. Nekje v daljavi zalaja pes. Pred očmi se mu stemni. Pustil bo odejo, teče proč, izginja med drevesi, opraskane roke, nekje si je natrgal kožo, dlan si briše ob sneg, sesa rano, v notranjosti dlani utripa kri. Že vejo zanj? Odeja visi čez ograjo, ozre se še za njo, vendar ni časa, teče, po glavi ga udrihajo veje, krivenčaste razpoke grmov proti nebu, drevesne veje, suhe od mraza, lahko bi jih lomil. Topota po snegu, noge ga spodnesejo, ampak takoj spet skoči po konci, brcne v najbližje deblo in teče naprej. Sovraži ta drevesa. Koliko mesecev je bolščal vanje skozi zamrežena okna te hiše, opazoval, kako jim odpada listje, kako spravljajo drevesne sokove pod zemljo, kako zmrzujejo. Ni poznal njihovih imen. Nikoli ni videl takih dreves, polna so bila ptičev, ki jih je čez čas začel iz gole nemoči prav tako sovražiti. Teče po mrtvi travi, votla stebelca brez mleka. Tukaj ne živi nič. Tudi življenje v ljudeh je usahnilo. Pokvarilo se je od znotraj in odmrlo. Vse je prepojila apatija. Moral se ustaviti, da je prišel do sape. Šele zdaj se mu je posvetilo, kakšen strah ga preveva. Kolena in roke so se mu tresle, ozrl se je, v daljavi se je še videla hiša obdana z ograjo. Sijala je pod večernim nebom. Vsak hip se bo spustila tema. Začela se bo še ena noč v tisti hali z zrakom, osiromašenim od dihanja, vzdihi iz nemirnih sanj. Videl je vse tiste samohotne trzljaje mišic, nehotene premike, rebra štreleče iz telesa kot pri radiatorju. Nekdo objema odejo in bulji v temo, nekdo spi. Telo se premika, diha, prejema hrano, življenje v njem pa se je ustavilo. Tukaj ne živi nič. Razpoka v oblakih na obzorju se je zacelila. Nebo se je zlilo v enotno sivo maso, izgledalo je kot valovi. Pozabil je že, kako dolgo je na poti, koliko dni, mesecev ali morda let je minilo, odkar sta se odpravila na pot. Nič ni hotel vedeti o tem. Imel je papir z naslovom in mora na sever, mora najti brata. Spet se je pognal. Naenkrat se je spomnil, da je nekoč tekel. Nekoč je bil najboljši na vsej šoli. Tekač na dolge proge, samo da niti šola in niti dežela, po kateri je tekel, ne obstajata več. Črte športnih prog, nasute snežno-belim apnom, je odpihnil veter. Šolo je med bombardiranjem prepredla razpoka od kleti vse do strehe. Cela hiša se je s pokom razlomila in zgrmela na tla. V drugem nadstropju je v prazno štrlel umivalnik kemijskega laboratorija kot zob iz razgaljene dlesni. Osuplo je buljil v ta umivalnik, nezmožen premika, dokler ga ni nekdo odpeljal stran, dol, v podzemlje. Strop kleti se je tresel, z njega se je usipal prah. Telo se bolj spominja. Spominja se bolj temeljito. noge so se naslonile na zemljo. Tekmoval boš, je tedaj nekdo rekel. Tekmoval. Padel je v sneg, ampak takoj spet skočil po konci. Z nohti se je oprijel ostrega in nagubanega lubja. Tekmoval boš, je tedaj rekel nekdo. Tekel je na vso moč, dihanje mu je postopoma pognalo v tek celo telo. Ledeni kisik se je kot šivanka zabodel v nos, se razvejil v pljučih, se s krvjo pretočil v stegna in nadlakti. Videl je svoje roke, kako se izstrelijo v ledeno mrzel zrak, kako padajo iz zornega polja. Ozrl se je. Nekje v daljavi pa si laješ. Odeja ga je preblisnilo. So jo že našli.
Thank you, Benjamin. Later we'll hear some more passages from the book, which was actually translated into Slovenian by Nives Vidrich, a wonderful translation, I must say. And then you also got really good first reviews here, Marek, by our colleague Petra Vidali from Večer. She says something which is really, let's say, the most important thing with this book. It's really a novel which hurts, and this is not metaphor. So can you tell us something about how you approached this book? Why was actually the desire in you so strong that you decided to write such a dark but in the same time beautiful and painful book?
Well, I would say it started with an emotion. In 2015, there was this refugee crisis, but in the Czech Republic, it was more or less virtual. We as Czechs, we've received 12 refugees officially, 12 people, and still the atmosphere back then was like we are facing probably the end of the world or something, and it was so strange. I was like shocked how this actually was possible, because it was all virtual, and still we were where we were, and I felt that because I remember it was a sunny day, a summer day, beautiful, clear sky, and everything was like happy. My daughter was born not long ago. She was like 2 months or something, 3 months. So I was full of emotions. And suddenly this news came about the truck found on the Austrian highway full of dead bodies, like an abandoned car with 71 people there, suffocated. Driver escaped. He ran away because he was shocked when he discovered what was in the back of the car. And for me, it was like a cold shower, and especially when I read all those comments on which was, of course, a terrible mistake. When I read what people said about this event in the Czech Republic, like it was, you can imagine, it was a never-ending threat of, people virtually or literally celebrated this thing, this crazy, useless, pointless death of 71 people, and in that moment, I knew I need to write something, and initially I felt I was angry. Actually, it was really very deep emotion of anger mixed with shame, because I don't know. I felt that it wasn't fair because I saw this toddler or newborn baby, not toddler. She was just a newborn, and my daughter, and I realized that she would probably be. She would probably live a happy life. Like for her, everything was granted, and she would grow up. She would have all the medical care she would need. She never would suffer from hunger, from all those things, and that's it. And then I realized that on some other place on this planet, in the same time, was born someone who would live a completely miserable life just because of some politics and whatsoever. And I felt, I don't know, a deep urge to say something, like to write something, because so that was the triggering point.
But initially, as you said, also in a video which is available on YouTube, in a conversation with Belletrina, that actually you wanted to write a book about this event, about these 71 people who died this horrible death in the truck, and you started writing and then stopped.
Yes,
and change it and then wrote this book. So what made you stop? Why did you then change it to another, let's say, approach, which is quite interesting because it reminds not only me of a computer game, survival computer game, and the passage we heard is something like that. You know, you're in a computer game, you try to survive. You're there, your moves are quick. You have to hide. You have to decide then where to go quite quickly. So why this change?
Well, initially, as you mentioned, I wanted to write something. I was driven by the emotion, by the anger, because, and it wasn't anger. I didn't want to, I wasn't angry with normal people, because it was everywhere back then. It was everywhere. It was in my family. I had I had a never-ending discussion with my grandmother, for example, about this, and or my cousin. He back then he bought a gun, and he's a father of two children, and he bought a gun and started practicing shooting, and
because he was afraid of
he was afraid, yeah, and I was sad about this because we didn't have any people even to shoot at. The most terrible scenario would be that his children would find the gun and shoot themselves probably or something. But he's not the one who to blame. Of course, that's normal that people feel fear, that people feel. In danger, maybe from different reasons, but I really blame, or I did blame, and blame today our politicians who immediately abused or used the situation. It's the best political. Currency, fear among people.
Yeah,
that's something which populism, and there was no one back then who would say, "Hey, calm down. This is not that serious. Just look around. There is no threat, no real threat, especially in the Czech Republic and the Middle Europe." There were no migrants. We haven't seen any. It was all on Facebook and so on and so on. They, at best, wanted to go through, and still it was there. And the media, of course, use it.
But can you tell me why this switch? I mean, from
sorry.
Starting a novel in this terrible truck with this really terrible
Sure.
fate of people, and then doing a novel where two brothers, apparently from Syria, one has a name, Amir, the older one, and the one who is younger, and who was escaping the, let's say, refugee center here, who doesn't have a name. He's just simply a boy. So why this change?
Well, because I realized that my first, let's say, idea was to write a book which would be a nightmare, which would be something terrible, like to shock people. I don't know what actually I wanted back then. I needed to scream somehow, because I don't know, I was full of emotion, as I said. So my intention was to write a book which would be like 200 pages long, and it would be set just inside the van in the truck. When after the people traffickers would close the doors, the door, and the people are inside and have probably 30 minutes or 40 minutes or something. That was the time they had, because the van, the truck was hermetically closed, because it was freezing. It was for transporting meat, actually, so frozen meat. So it was there wasn't any way for oxygen to get inside. So those people were sentenced to that in the very moment when they closed the door, and they consumed all the oxygen in those 40 minutes. And so I wanted to write a book about stages of suffocating, just this second by second, like a page a second maybe, or something, and all those 70 people, and it would be, and I started writing it, and it was unbearable. Of course, I finished like 20 pages, and I had to stop.
You still have them?
Yeah, probably somewhere. Yeah, and it was very. Even for me, when I was writing it, I was in a claustrophobic state. Like I felt it's too much. And it's useless, actually. I felt it's just. It was, as I said, it was driven by this anger or this strange emotion. I felt that the world is unfair as a whole. Somehow it's naive. I don't know.
You're right. I mean, it's
yeah, probably yes, but it wouldn't help anyone, and I felt that I need something else to do in order to achieve, some compassion maybe, or something else. So I started anew. I stopped this terrible project, this nightmarish, shocking nonsense. And I decided to write something different, a story of two brothers. And immediately I knew I would be able to finish this, because somehow I was able to connect to those characters.
Because you're a younger brother of an.
I'm actually an older brother.
I'm
and
sorry.
No problem. I have a brother, and we have this story. Like, my brother used to be a drug addict for a very long time, since he was very young when he started, and like 14 years old. And I lost him for a very long time. He was lost for me. So I somehow, I don't know, immediately when I know it would be about two brothers, I was able to emotionally connect to the protagonists. And I don't know, it may sound silly, but for me, the experience I have with searching for my brother, he used to be an outcast, complete outcast. He was even in jail and so on. And for me, he was also a black sheep, someone unwanted in the society. And when I was writing, I was using constantly those emotions and those feelings. So somehow even though there is not a hint, not a single hint in the book that it could be you can't connect it to my brother or whatever. It's just the writer's tool how to create the believable characters. And when I listened to stories of people who came through this experience of who were refugees, I felt that it's not that far away. Like they were also outcasts. They were shadows on the outskirts of the society. The same feelings I had with my brothers as a drug addict. Those people are blackened somehow, even though it's not fair because they're struggling. They're struggling for being human beings.
Because the outer world is painted quite bleak and black.
Sure.
We also heard that. By the way, how was it to hear your novel in Slovenian? Because Slovenian and Czech are closely related languages. I read it somewhere that you were quite amazed hearing, because it translated also in Hungarian, the Hungarian translation of your book. Of course, you couldn't understand it, but Slovenian you can understand a little bit. So
Yeah.
Was there a feeling you could connect?
Well, yes. Basically, when I listen to translations, I connect to rhythm, which is rhythm and flow. It's like in rap. you can feel this, and it's different from language to language. It's different, and especially languages I don't understand like a single word from them. It's wonderful because you can listen to it as to a music or something. It is, and I believe it's a vital or very important thing when you write. It's something you somehow have to conquer, or you have to know this how to use rhythm, because it's sometimes during editing process you cut off a sentence or two and something is missing and you know it very well, but I'm searching for it, and then you put those sentences back and everything is okay. It's like I don't know, you have to keep this system in balance. It's like it's like flow of blood in your veins or something. Maybe it's too pathetic, but it's there. Something like
beautifully said, and I would like to come back to this because you're originally a poet, so it's actually quite an important thing because of the style you write. But before we go on, just one question more, and then we will hear Benjamin again with a passage of your book. Well, you said blackened people, outcast, but the world, or let's say Europe, you paint is extremely dark.
Yeah.
It's a cold place with somehow cold people, with exceptions, of course, like in everyday's life. So I mean, did your perspective of Europe as a cold place of 2016 when you published this book, and now did it change in a way?
Well, yes, and I have never believed that we are bad people. Actually, as I said, I just believe that people are fragile in a way. They tend to believe many things, like they are. I was surprised how easily manipulated we are actually, and in the book I wanted to do a different thing. Of course it's a fiction, but in a way I wanted to portray Europe from the other side of all those fancies and from outside, and I had this feeling from what I've heard, like that it could be observed Europe from outside as as a bureaucratic fortress, very cold, systematic, machine-like. Something and inaccessible for anyone from outside, and so that's why it's in the book. I wanted to, I was always amazed how literature is capable of doing such things, that you can actually use someone else's eyes and look through them on the world. You can completely you can change perspective, and that's the main force, I would say, of literature. That you can be for a couple of hours in someone else's skin and feel it and touch the world through the skin of someone else, and so because it's that simple, I would say it's simple. The literature is here to share things, to teach you that this is not a universal view on the world. So I tried to do that exactly.
It is, but one have to be a really good writer and a really open person to do that. And you apparently are a brilliant writer, and of course open to this other perspectives. We would go on after we hear another passage from your book, Material Fatigue, Únava materiálu, or Utrujenost materiála in Slovenian. So Benjamin, are you ready?
Kompleto.
Okay.
Thank you.
Še tistega večera so želeli, naj jih pelje v uničene četrti. Bila sta dva, z oboroženim spremstvom. Izgledala sta kot pijana, kot v vročici. Imela sta razširjene zenice, suhe ustnice in povišen utrip. To se je videlo na izstopajočih žilah na njunih nadlakteh in vratovih. Nenehno sta se razgledovala. Eden od njiju je imel široka ramena, bil je visok, na čelu zavezano rutico, okrog vratu lesene koralde, pod črnim telovnikom natrenirane mišice, predvsem na nadlakteh. Videlo se je, da veliko vadi, kljub temu pa si na njegovem telesu hitro opazil nekaj neskladnega. Nenavadno neskladnost, kot bi neenakomerno obremenjeval samo nekatere skupine mišic in bi druge zakrnevale, se stisnile in neznatno krivile celotno postavo. Tudi na njegovi hoji je bilo nekaj neobičajnega. Hodil je odločno, vendar kar nekoliko preveč. Vse to je le maskiralo negotovost, neugodje v njem samem. Moški je z vsakim gibom glave, z vsakim korakom in vsako kretnjo zakrival nekaj nežnega in nemočnega, nekaj, kar ga je nekje pod tistimi neskladnimi mišicami, pod rutico in telovnikom varovalo pred svetom. V roki je pred sabo nesel mobilni telefon. Z njim je meril naokrog in brez prestanka upehano govoril. V načinu njegovega govora, podobno kot v hoji, je bilo nečesa v preobilju. Moški je večino časa opisoval stvari, ki so jih vsi vedeli, in torej ni imelo nobenega smisla govoriti o njih. Zagledali so zažgan avto. Moški je naperil telefon v njegovi smeri in ga začel zelo obširno in nekako zagnano opisovati. Uzrli so hišo s porušenimi nadstropji in moški je začel pri priči z razširjenimi zenicami opisovati hišo in je opozoril predvsem na porušena nadstropja. Roke so se mu tresle. Zaradi pretirane živčnosti je občasno zavzdihnil. To je bil glasen izdih osuplosti in je bil slišati skoraj kot vrisk. Ali pa je tiho in občuteno zase, toda dovolj blizu za mikrofon v telefonu rekel: "O, Bog", da bi pokazal, da je to, kar vidi, neverjetno. In potem je še za vsak primer pristavil: "Neverjetno." Amir jih je peljal v epicenter. Vojska ga je najela za tolmača. Odkrili so, da je pred vojno delal kot turistični vodnik. Ni se jih upal zavrniti. Moška sta se spogledovala, fotografirala mrtvega psa in neke mačke, ki so zvečer prilezle iz sence. Predvsem sta dolgo s pogledom sledila eni, ki je za sabo vlekla zadnji nogi. Žival se je bala, vendar žal ni mogla hoditi dovolj hitro. Moška sta se z izbuljenimi očmi plazila za njo, merila vanjo s svojimi objektivi, prehitevala sta žival, se spotikala med opekami in kosi panelov, poklekala v prah zaradi dobre kompozicije. Moški z mišicami je opisoval mačko in predvsem to, da ne more hoditi, ker je ranjena. Drugi je bil nekaj starejši in je govoril malo manj. Vse, kar je izjavil, je govoril z vojaško dikcijo. Mrščil je obrvi, se potil, globoko dihal, glas in roke so se mu tresle enako kot prvemu, vendar mu je uspelo to bolje prikrivati. Kljub vsej živčnosti se je še vedno držal nekako samozavestno. Fotografiral je in snemal manj raztreseno, tako da se je dalo pričakovati, da bo na njegovih posnetkih videti le nekaj več kot razmazane lise, kakor v primeru prvega moškega. Imel bi jih lahko okrog 40. Lasje na sencih in temenu na kratko postriženi, zgoraj daljši in počesani nazaj. Obnašal se je kot Američan. Po naglasu sodeč pa je bil enako kot prvi moški Britanec. Na sebi je imel črno majico in brezrokavnik peščene barve s številnimi žepi in žepki, kot jih pogosto nosijo profesionalni fotografi, kar pa ta moški ni bil. Ko je govoril, je drugega večinoma nekaj poučeval. Stopil je k njemu, mu položil roko na ramo, s kretnjo nakazal, naj malo počepne, previdno iztegnil roko in z 2 prstoma pokazal ruševino na nasprotni strani. Pri tem je rahlo nagnil glavo in priprl oči. Kazalec in sredinec je zabadal v zrak, meril na nekatere točke na zgradbi. Pojasnjeval je, da je glede na sledi krogel v zgornjem oknu tam bil ostrostrelec, skušali so ga dobiti. Nihče ni ugovarjal, čeprav so vsi vedeli, da tukaj ni bilo nobenega ostrostrelca, da to niso sledi krogel, ampak preprosto odpadel omet. Moška pa sta se že posvečala drugim stvarem. Starejši je imel fotoaparat z velikanskim teleobjektivom. Občasno je prosil za stativ ali bisago z dodatnimi objektivi in različnimi pripomočki. Vse to mu je nosilo spremstvo. Na jermenu je imel obešeno tudi kamero, ki jo je priložnostno zamenjal za fotoaparat. Pri vsakem zvoku se je malo skrčil in z resnim obrazom ugibal, kaj bi lahko ta zvok pomenil. Gledal je v nebo in z namrščenimi obrvmi razlagal, da je podobne zvoke slišal pri obstreljevanju Gaze, ko se je bližal letalski napad. Vsi, ki so stali tukaj, so dobro vedeli, kako izgleda letalski napad. Vsi so zanesljivo poznali tudi najmanjše odtenke hrupa bližajočih se letal, zvok migov, tihe, zlovešče vibracije na meji slišnosti, ko se bliža helikopter. Vsi so vedeli, da je prej samo nekje v razvalinah zapihal veter, vendar moškemu ni nihče oporekal. Jemali so jih samo na območja, kjer že mesece ni bilo obstreljevanja. Konflikt se je preselil daleč stran od tod. Zadnja stvar, ki bi jo tukaj potrebovali, bi bili mrtvi Evropejci. Tukaj trenutno ni grozila nobena nevarnost, vendar je bilo dobro, da sta moška mislila, da grozi, ker sta očitno hrepenela ravno potem. Amir je prevedel, kar je bilo treba, stvarno, kratko, profesionalno. Vedel je, da se denar, ki sta ga ta dva prinesla s sabo, zdaj nekje že spreminja v orožje, v sestavine eksplozivnih teles, ki bojo požgale naslednji del mesta, zravnala s tlemi naslednji del dežele. Tega se je zavedal brez kakršne koli grenkobe, brez zanimanja. Nekaj v njem se je zlomilo. Nista govorila o tem, toda tudi bratu je že postalo jasno, da bosta odšla, da jima ne preostane nič drugega, odšla bosta stran od teh ruševin. Tukajšnjega življenja je konec. Stvari so v nekem trenutku izgubile smisel v takih razsežnostih, da jih nikoli več ne bojo zavzele nazaj. Neka ruska potovalna agencija se dogovarja z ministrstvom za turizem, da bi lahko na vojna območja začela legalno voziti ljudi. Zanimanje obstaja v Evropi in tudi v Ameriki. To bo pomagalo razdejanemu gospodarstvu. Ta dva moška, to je bil samo začetek, samo še en ornament sanj, iz katerih se nihče že leta ni mogel prebuditi.
That was Benjamin Krnetič, the actor of SNG Drama, the biggest Slovenian theater. Well, it's a scene in your book when you describe how people from Europe actually came as, let's say, sort of war tourists to the home country of both brothers, who then fled it, which was really a brilliant display of our arrogance and let's say fakeness in a way. But I would say that the strongest part of the book, which is strong in general, is actually how do you describe the let's say the suffering of both brothers in very, let's say, intimate scenes. It was really painful to read how you actually describe the position of one of the two characters in a car, actually. Yes. In a motor under the bonnet. And it's so brilliantly written that it's, as I said, really painful. How are you capable of writing such things without actually suffering for yourself, or do you actually? Did you try this ordeal?
I didn't, and I would say it's imagination, simple. But I usually try to, I don't have to fly to Mars to write a science fiction. It's simple. Mm-hmm. I just need to have a certain amount of information, and I can work with this. Of course, for me it's impossible even to go through such thing simply. It's I could try to. You described this scene. For me, it's one of the most important chapters of the novel, when those two brothers are smuggled into Europe in it's not that usual way, because we have this connection with with people on boats on in ships, and this is a more common way how to traffic people into Europe. It's that you just use a car as a camouflage. You put people into the car seats in false space or room in the trunk of a car, under the hood of just directly into the engine. Yeah. Actually, you just create a small like hollow there, and put a person there, and he's stuck there, or he's pushed inside like a huge in fatal position, like a strange monstrous embryo. And for me it was a metaphor of being reborn, or what is this for those people? Like they're born again in a new in this continent, in new society. They're usually trying to start again, like their life, everything. They have to set a new life, and also there is a very important symbol of car. Like throughout the whole book, there is this motive. It returns on and on. It's actually being manufactured throughout the whole book. You see steel being transported from a factory to factory. One of the characters uses the train on which the steel is transported from to assembly line. Then there is a chapter in the assembly line when he observes how it is made, how the car is made, and in the end it is there brand new, and people die in it. For me, it wasn't about depicting or portraying suffering. It wasn't like I didn't want to do it as a form of, I don't know, just look how terrible this is. I really wanted to write it as something engaging, like something because you can really use literature. You can use a text as an invitation, like to be there, to feel it, and you can be in language. You can be. It's wonderful how precise you can be, how close you can get actually to real sensual. Like feeling, to feel something, like in a dream almost, because when you dream, when you sleep, a dream is also, your body is active when you're dreaming. It's also capable of triggering everything in your body, in your sensual apparatus. You feel things, you smell things, you see things, and your skin is active also. So for me, language is something like that. It's like controlled dream, or I like to call it a controlled dream. That's for me a good literature in a way. It's simply I felt that when we are dealing with ghosts, with migrants which actually don't exist in real life in Czech Republic and in Poland and in Slovakia and so on, that somehow I create a world where you can meet them somehow and be there with them for a while. So yeah, it may sound again naive in a way, but it was an attempt, and I'm a writer. That's the only thing I can do properly, to create such worlds, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, the position in Slovenia is a little bit different than in the Czech Republic when it comes to migrants and refugees. We're actually dealing with their fates every day, still coming through Bosnia and then Croatia. There was some days ago, it was actually the same situation that they found actually 4 people in a van below the bottom. Plus there was also a news that among a group of refugees or migrants on the Slovenian-Croatian border, there was also a resident of the Czech Republic, Czech national, but he was not part of the group. He actually got lost in Croatia and somehow came to Slovenia in a group of people. So it's quite weird what happens. But of course we will hear another passage of your book. But I'd like to put it in a more general way. The way you write, it's exactly what you said. Your writing is really precise, really deep, short sentences, sentences which really pass the emotion and the feeling to the readers. It's actually something what you already tried before. Basically, everything what you write is a success. It started with the poems, strychnine, and then you started to write also prosa. Is it something that you actually developed quite early, or how did your style evolve? How did you also work on your style?
Well, I think it's a very difficult process. I sometimes feel like if it was a living organism or something. I wrote a book called Aberrant. It was translated into English as Aberrant, and
the Czech title is Chyba. What is the exact exact word in Slovenian?
Slovenia. Okay, yeah, mistake. Yeah, and it was in a way a mistake, I would say. But I had to rewrite the book afterwards, and I also did a graphic novel from it, and I probably will rewrite it again, and
which is a little bit weird. I
yeah,
mean, to rewrite your own book.
It is a sort of a neurosis. But when I was writing the book, and the book is about plants. It's about it's a botanical horror, I would say. I realized that it was like planting a plant somehow. It was like
it's about plant smugglers.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Against smugglers, it's about a very rare species of flowers, which were there is, let's say, a huge business around this worldwide, and it's real. People are smuggling rare species of orchids and so on.
People do all sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah, and for many people it's a sort of obsession. So I wrote a novel about this strange field and of black market, let's say, or part of black market, and the novel I started it as a poem. Actually, it was haiku-like, very tiny little poem of few verses, not a very good one, just a scratch in or just a note in my diary, and then I wrote another poem, and then couple of tens of others, and then I rewrote it as a short story, and but it continued this growth, and then I connected to another short story, so I had a sort of novella or what, and then it still was active somehow. So it produced some branches and roots, and I was like, in a certain period when I was writing the novel, I called it a literary cancer, because it produced some metastasis, and things like that. Like it was like a disease or almost, and I also had some flu or what back then. It was long before COVID, so it was normal influenza or what. And so I had fevers, and during those feverish states, I finished, or I was working on the novel, and it was strange. It was really like, in a way, madness and whatsoever. I think it's always it needs always something like that. The literature, something like fever, or
But it was a productive fever, because that's actually the first book. It was translated into English, Aberrant.
That's right. Yeah,
and also into German as Der Fehler. So
yes,
it's quite a success.
I would say so, but yeah, I basically hate the book. But
and that's why you rewrote it once, and probably will rewrite it for several times. But I mean, you wrote other stuff too. As I said, poems, then this aberrant, then Stay Tuned. Also got a big prize in the Czech Republic, and then before the material fatigue, you wrote a map of Anna, map Ani, which also is a proof how innovative you are. You know, I mean, it's a let's say they're short stories which are actually somehow connected, but then in the end, you really draw a complete map of this girl called Anna. I find it really amazing how you actually were able to connect the dots in these short stories and to write actually a sort of a novel. Do you work very much on your stories? Do you rewrite them often? How do you connect these dots? How do you process your writing?
It's funny you mentioned this because I really have in my mind when I was writing this book this strange. It's a mutant. It's something in between a novel and short stories, and I wanted to create something in between. It's a strange web of texts, and you can read from whichever chapter you like, and in the Netherlands it was published as a novel. In the Czech Republic it was published as a compilation of poems. So it's and I had in my mind this idea of dots, as you said, and especially those children, you know, it's in children magazines usually you have dots with numbers, and when you connect them, something occurs, you know, it creates a shape or something, an animal, whatever. So I had in my mind that I would compose a book like that you have like distant points or separated points, and then in the end it would like click and create something. And I don't know. I usually work. Every book is something for me, like a new beginning. I've been writing a new novel for maybe 3 years, and again it would be
So
something.
it's not about coronavirus.
No. No. It will be more, I would say, personal this time, and it's also like about my experience, about my father who died when I was 2 years old, and it's about growing with this black hole in your life, like this mysterious. Because I don't have a single memory of him, but still, he's
there.
He's there, of course, and somehow I need to. That's something I'm interested in. Maybe because of my children, and observing them from a different angle. Now I'm in his position somehow. So for me, this is very natural process, because I always write about the most important thing in my life. That's simple. So now it's this, and I had to develop a completely new language, completely new rhythmical structures. It will be much more, let's say, baroque in language, ornamental, in comparison with the material fatigue, and I always, when I mentioned before the rhythm, I always start with some I don't know, some pulsation, something like really something. I'm searching for something which would live, which would work as a heartbeat of the text. So I searching for a right rhythm, I would put it that way.
You're a young man, young father of 3 children, but you work on computer, so you write on the computer.
Yes, yeah.
And you immediately edit the text, or do you go through? I mean, It's interesting to.
I usually use a lot of diaries and notebooks. Like with me, I have and I write in hand. Immediately, I hear when I hear something on train, wherever, in tram, in Prague, or a fragment of conversation, whatever. I usually take notes because this material is the most important thing to have, like some greenhouse with all those seeds planted, and you can use them later on. And it's fun because you collect pieces of of speech and of just atmospheres, gestures, like it's like in the laboratory of some Frankenstein or other mad scientist, that you have those pieces of people, pieces of conversations, and everything is like in a storage house somewhere. But I knew. I know always where it is, where to reach and use it.
Any people or young people, because you're before we hear Benjamin again and start start then talking about also your position as a writer in the society. You are a sort of let's say representative or the voice of a younger generation, which is also part of your work, because Stay Tuned is a collection of short stories with where this emptiness of a young generation comes to picture, and also the map of Anna. So I mean, do you see yourself as a, let's say, writer of a generation?
Short answer would be no. I just I don't know. I have so many influences in me. I don't want to speak just for my generation or people my age. I write about old people also, about different types of characters. That's not my aim to just to capture some just to express concerns of my generation. It was in the book you mentioned, in the collection of short stories, but also the book begins with the guy who is probably 80 years old or maybe older, and his memory is disappearing from him, and the whole story is about searching for the name of his wife, of his life partner, his loved one, and he can't remember her name, and so I wouldn't say it's about my generation, actually. And
not yet.
yeah. So, but for me, it was important to have that story in this collection, because exactly we will reach this point, and that's life. All those stories which sooner or later will disappear somewhere, and I don't know, and maybe it's good.
So you're actually regarded as a, let's say, a voice of young people, because you're still young writer with so many interesting and successful books so far, but a man who will actually write and make people happy and happy with your literature for a long time, till you forget everything, probably. But we're still not there. We're ready now for another doses of Benjamin and your book. We started this conversation, so material fatigue. Benjamin.
Pristal je v svežem snegu. Segal je nad gležnje. Črne drevesne krošnje so bile zasnežene do najmanjših vejic, tako da se je zdelo, da mečejo belo senco. Pod težo so se upogibale do tal. Obrnil se je. Povlekel je k sebi obe okenski krili. Brez težav sta se zaskočili. V grmadi lesa za hišo je odkrhnil majhno trsko. Zaprl je polknice. Pod eno vtaknil trsko kot klin, porinil, klinček se je oprl in tako držal polkna trdno zaprta. Še zadnjič se je ozrl in se odpravil k reki. Stal je zraven črnega krivenčastega okostja drevesa, ki ga je zjutraj kot prvo stvar opazil skozi okno. Jedel je sneg. Bil je malenkost grenikast, kot če poližeš kovino ali baterijo. Držal je pest polno snega in ga postopoma grizljal. Takih zametov ni videl še nikoli. Najprej se mu je zazdelo, da je naokrog popolna tišina. Čez kratek čas mu je začelo rahlo piskati v ušesih. Imel je občutek, da snežno bela pokrajina zveni, da oddaja visok, tenek zvok čisto na meji slišnosti. Razgledal se je po reki. Tehtal je, ali se ne bi odpravil nazaj. Ni vedel, kakšno razdaljo je prehodil prejšnji dan. Pogledal je v nebo. Niti najmanj se mu ni sanjalo, koliko bi lahko bila ura. Stopil je na led in jo mahnil naprej proti toku. Spomnil se je, da je na zemljevidu reko prečkalo nekaj mostov. Prej ali slej bo naletel na katerega od njih in se skušal orientirati po njem. Hodil je nekaj časa in pokrajina je bila nespremenjena. Ves čas enaki bregovi, enake snežno-bele strmine, pod katerimi je vijugalo rečno korito. V nekem trenutku se je spustil na vse štiri, ker se je ustrašil, da led poka. Potem pa je ugotovil, da se je samo v bregu pod težo snega odlomila mogočna veja. S temnim odmevom, kot če hrskne trup glasbila, je pristala na tleh. Po udarcu je še enkrat počila, se zapeljala v sneg, ta je siknil okrog nje in na to je vse otrpnilo. Se potopilo v morda še bolj izrazito tišino kot predtem.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. That was really wonderful, of course, beautifully written by Marek Šindelka. Well, as I said, you started as a poet. I believe that was in a very young age, actually motivated by a girl you fell in love with. So you started to collect, feelings and so on, and then the poems came, and then you started writing. As I said, every book you wrote was or is a success, not only in the Czech Republic. You're extremely popular in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in Scandinavia. You have also some books published in one in English, one in German. This is your biggest success when it comes to translating. And if you're now in Scandinavia, what is interesting is that you also wrote a graphic novel, because originally you actually studied culturology at the Charles University in Prague, and also at the famous FAMU screenwriting. So you're actually by profession a screenwriter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it's very difficult to live just from writing in the Czech Republic, from literature.
Really?
So I need to.
I thought it was only in Slovenia.
So I need to combine it with this. I used to work as a journalist for a couple of years,
Which was a difficult time, I would say.
Yeah. Because it was crazy. I was sitting basically the whole day in front of the screen in the office, and then I came home, and during nights I was sitting in front of the screen, like typing some nonsense, and then again. So I had to stop in order to somehow
Stop journalism in order to excel in
to
literature.
save my
Good decision.
literature, writing. So that's it, and I did many jobs after I finished high school, and then I was studying at the university. But in the meantime, I worked in the library, and then did many jobs like just to live. And then gradually I I really was able to live somehow from writing, and when combined with scripts, it's feasible. Yeah.
But basically, you're famous in the Czech Republic, and of course, this graphic novel, which is actually the last thing you published, that was in 2019, was also a big success because it's a graphic novel. Graphic novels are very, very popular, and it's about it's about a very prominent case. Of course, we don't know nothing about it. In Slovenia, Saint Barbara. What is it about?
Well, it's a story. It was a huge case in the Czech Republic back in 2007, and it's a story of this girl or lady called Barbora Škrlova. She was 35 back then, but she...
So basically your age now?
Yeah, and she managed back then to tricked people and the system and everything. She turned herself into a child. She pretended to be a 12-year-old girl in Czech Republic. Then, when it was discovered, she moved to Norway actually, and then succeeded in. She pretended to be a 12-year-old boy. And again, it was everyone believed that it's true, and but there is a very dark side of this case, and it's because it all started with a discovery of torturing children, actually, like real children in a basement in a house in somewhere near Brno in the Czech Republic.
I thought that was mainly Austrian.
But
domain.
We have also and in the end, it was somehow revealed that it was a religious group creating as something like a supreme being or something like that, or trying to create a goddess from this lady Barbora Škrlova, and it was crazy. It was like a nightmare. 2 years, it was the prominent case, first pages of newspapers, everywhere around media. It was still present. You could be sure when you go for a coffee that the whole place would be talking about this and it was like something. So we, after all those years, and no one actually dared to somehow to tell the story because it was so complicated. This is just the tip of an iceberg, what I'm telling you. But there were like 30, 40 people involved. It was international. It's like it's a whole universe of its own. So we actually decided to tell the story somehow, and we had great ambitions. Like we wanted to tell the truth, what was behind, because it was like maybe it was some kind of mafia, maybe it was people trafficking, maybe it was this religious group, but in the end we found ourselves in this trap, because it was crazy. I couldn't sleep at night, and we were really, we started to be obsessed by the case, and suddenly we realized we had to do it in a different way, and because it was crazy. And so we decided to portray this hunger for truth, this obsession, and decided to have. So it's basically a story of a journalist who is obsessed. She is obsessed by the case, and she's our alter ego or something in the book. So that's it, basically, in a nutshell.
So graphic novel, but of course it's got the Czech Republic's annual Muriel Award for the best comic book of the year. So no doubt about it. You told us something about the next book, but basically what we see now. So you're inspired by a lot of things, like let's say conversations on the tram in Prague, or the let's say how to say plant smuggling mafia, and of course the problem of refugees. So I mean, how do you, let's say, somehow put your motivation to write in order?
Yeah, well, maybe it sounds like it's like you know, a little bit eccentric, or there is another central topic or something. But I would say the basically all my books are somehow linked in a way. It's all about identity, and the body, and how what actually it is. What does it mean to have this structure, to be, you know, born in this world with this, and you have to care for it, and somehow live with this, and especially in time when we have all those gadgets and social media and so on, where you can work as a designer of your own ego, and you can change everything, but the body is still present, and it's aging, and it will die, and that's inevitable, but it's also a wonder. That's something which is probably one of the most wonderful things that you know, we are somehow limited, because otherwise we won't tell stories. We don't, you know. I think we somehow, there is a strong link between us being mortal and stories, because you need to transfer it further. And also, it's an urge to do something with your life. Actually, otherwise you could just wait for I don't know, for another century or what. And I feel this is interconnected, and somehow it's present, those things, in my writings. The theme of identity, what does it mean, and the body, my motivation, or what exactly was the question? I think it's. I think I just need to feel that it's somehow connected to me, to my concerns, and to my life, and it's usually something like that, I would say. Yeah.
We're coming to the end, not of our lives, but of this conversation. Well, as I said, you're extremely famous in the Czech Republic. Still young, still a lot. It's still a lot ahead of you, but because you are a star of literature in the Czech Republic, the Czechs produced really an immense literature, which is also very influential here in Slovenia. Everybody knows, of course, Jaroslav Hašek because of his Švejk, and then some people have actually heard about Jan Neruda, and Karel Čapek was quite influential, and of course Milan Kundera, Václav Havel, of course. Then we have a Czech writer who is actually quite popular, Michal Fivek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Less people know Bohumil Hrabal, which is, I would say, one of your, let's say, role models, if I'm not mistaken.
Not necessarily. Of course, it's inevitable to you know, to read Hrabal in Czech, but for me it was, I would say, the most important writer was Kafka. Of course, it's inevitable also, but. It's a different. We have like two branches of literature. On one hand, you have Hrabal, Hašek, and those people connected to I don't know, let's say pop culture or this, but both are wonderful and I admire them in a way. But on the other hand, you have those more analytical writers like Kafka and Kundera, and more, I don't know, it's more fragile, more let's say it's darker, and
So you're more on this darker
I would
side.
say for me always, but all those writers are
No,
gorgeous.
It's interesting that you, of course, mentioned Kafka, who is the most prominent writer coming from Prague. But he wrote in German. He was Jew. By the way, I wanted to also mention Jaroslav Seifert, who is the only Czech Nobel Prize winner for literature. But funnily enough, Prague was still is one of the centers of European or world literature. As Kafka was from Prague, and there are other German writing writers like Rilke was originally from Prague, Max Brod, Franz Werfel, Egon Erwin Kisch, Der rasende Reporter, or also one of my favorites, Friedrich Thorberg, who moved to Vienna. So Prague was really influential, and you, of course, are one of the successors of this fantastic tradition. But you told in an interview that it's quite difficult for a Czech writer to be translated into, let's say, big languages like English, German, or French. How come? Because you have this really fantastic tradition.
Well, it's I would say for any author from Eastern or Central Eastern Europe, it's really difficult to be translated into English. Just one of my books was translated into English, but it was published by a Prague-based publishing house. It is so. Again, it's strange. Small publishing house. They're great, super great, but still, it's difficult to penetrate this world. It's much more better with German because there are our neighbors. But for example, it's the same with French language. It's very difficult to be translated into French somehow. Those countries have their own tradition, and I'm afraid they see somehow that this you mentioned all those wonderful names, but this tradition is over for them in their eyes. They don't see me and my generation as descendants of those writers. It's been disconnected, maybe due to I don't know actually. The last like important writers in their eyes were, of course, Milan Kundera and Václav Havel.
Havel, yeah, of course,
definitely. But after that, I don't know. Joachim Topol is one of the most. He's been translated into many languages, and he's one of the most prominent authors, I would say, from after the Velvet Revolution, after the fall of the Iron Curtain. And we will see. I think in other hand, it's somehow refreshing that we can do whatever we want. I don't feel obliged to follow any tradition or whatever. I feel that I need to search something for myself, and that's we will see. I don't need to fulfill anyone's dreams of Kafka's double or whatever. That's not my. I think it's useless. To be in a row of Kafka's epigons. I need to find my own language, and I still feel I'm actually in the beginning. I still feel that I'm testing what I can do in a way, and maybe it will be a failure. I don't know. Maybe I will be just script writer and finish writing, or I will write poetry, and I don't know, observing clouds in the sky, and I will be happy probably, and who knows? I just try to let it breathe somehow. The whole process, my texts, the evolution. I will see with the new novel, because I think I've discovered something, but it's too early, or it's too fresh now. We will see.
No, it's great to hear you talking like this. I mean, the big world. They still don't know what they're missing. And it's really nice to see how you actually are optimistic, and of course you have something to build on. It's really great, and we're so happy in Slovenia that you actually that we were able to discover you thanks to this book, which is probably only the beginning. So we know that. We can be grateful to the Czech culture, which actually shaped, in many ways, pretty much unknown to Slovenians. Our own culture. We're sitting here in Linhartova Hall. Anton Tomáš Linhart was, of course, a Carniolan playwright and historian. He wrote the first theater piece, and he was of Czech origin. I mean, his father was Czech. Then, of course, Anton Förster, the author of the first Slovenian opera, was Czech. Gorenski Slavček, Kranjski Slaviček in Czech, by the way. Then, of course, the František Čap, who actually is one of the founding fathers of Slovenian film. And I mean, it's so many people that so many things that connect us. I was brought up by Krtek, the famous comic.
Me too.
Yeah. So we have something in common, and of course, a whole generation.
And now he's very popular in China. So probably the whole China will be.
This will change China.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, I need also to add that. Several generations of Slovenians were actually brought up by the first telenovela, which was popular. Of course, the Nemocnice na kraji mesta, which is the hospital at the end of the city, very popular in the 70s. So I mean, you gave us so much, and we're happy that the Czech literature gave us you. We wish you good luck, and as I said, we really would like to see that it's only the beginning of your relationship with Slovenia. You climbed already our biggest mountain. You will probably also come to our hearts and stay there for a very, very long time with new books. So thank you very much, Marek Šindelka. It was a great pleasure speaking to you. And hopefully not the last time.
Thank you too. Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks a lot.
I'll switch back now to Slovenian, just to say najlepša hvala tudi vsem seveda obiskovalkam in obiskovalcem v Linhartovi dvorani in pa seveda vsem, ki ste do tega trenutka ostali z nami tudi prek spleta. Skratka, hvala za vašo pozornost, lepo se imejte še naprej in ne glede na to, da smo veliko govorili o knjigi Utrujenost materiala, jo je vredno prebrati. Vemo, zakaj gre, ampak že samo doživetje prebrati to knjigo je resnično vredno nekaj ur vašega življenja. Skratka, hvala in srečno.